The great hall on Nexus Prime stretched high into the crystal sky. 12 different species sat in their floating seats, each one looking down at the humans who stood in the center of the room. Ambassador Sarah Chen held her datapad with steady hands, but her heart was beating fast. This was humanity's chance to save everyone. Honored council members, Sarah began, her voice clear in the vast space. We come before you today with urgent news. The threat we call the Void Swarm is real, and it is coming. High Magistrate Veltar of the Zeltharians made a sound that humans would call a snort. His blue skin shimmered as he leaned forward in his floating chair. Ambassador Chen, your species has been part of this council for only 2 years. Do you really think you understand threats that we ancient races have not seen? Sarah kept her calm. She had expected this reaction. Magistrate, 3 star systems have gone completely silent. No signals, no ships, nothing. Our long-range scouts found only empty space where planets used to be. The Ethereal Collective spoke next. Their voices came from a crystal that glowed with soft light. Young humans always fear what they do not understand. The galaxy has many mysteries. Planets do not simply disappear. But they do, Sarah said, activating her hologram. The image showed a star system with dead planets floating in space. This was the Kepler 186 system 3 months ago. 5 billion people lived there. Now look, the hologram changed to show the same space, but empty. No planets, no debris, just empty darkness moving through space like a living shadow. Dr. Kethvar from the Synthesis Union made mechanical clicking sounds that meant laughter. Your human technology must be broken. Our sensors show no unusual activity in that region. Because it moves, Sarah said, her voice getting stronger. The swarm doesn't stay in one place. It consumes everything and moves on. Our analysis shows it's heading toward the galactic core, toward all of us. The tree speaker for the Verdani rustled their leaves. The translation device turned their sounds into words. Little saplings should not lecture old trees about forest fires. We have lived for thousands of years. We know real danger. Sarah felt frustration building inside her, but she pushed it down. Please just look at our data. The energy signatures, the movement patterns, the rate of expansion. We've tracked this thing for 6 months. It learns from every world it takes. It gets stronger. Enough, said Supreme Being Zaxthor, their golden form glowing brighter. We have heard your fears, human. But fear is not wisdom. This council has protected the galaxy for 10,000 years. We know what threatens us. The Aquarian representative spoke through their water suit. Perhaps the humans need more time to understand galactic reality. These young species often see monsters in shadows. Sarah played her final card. She showed recordings from their scout ships, images of the darkness moving between stars, energy readings that made no sense. This is not fear. This is fact. The Void Swarm exists. It's coming. And when it gets here, our current weapons won't stop it. What do you suggest? Asked the Ethereal Collective, though their tone suggested they were just being polite. A joint defense force, Sarah said quickly. Pool our resources, our knowledge, our fleets. Study this enemy together. Develop new weapons and defenses. Share everything we learn. The silence that followed was heavy. Then High Magistrate Veltar began to laugh. It was a sound like breaking crystal. You want us to give our most advanced technology to humans? The species that still uses chemical rockets? Our technology may be simple, but our analysis is correct, Sarah said. We're offering to share everything we've learned about the swarm. All we ask is that you take this seriously. Dr. Kethvar's mechanical voice was cold. Human ambassador, your species has contributed nothing of value to this council. Your worlds produce basic metals and food. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Why should we trust your judgment about galactic threats? The tree speaker rustled again. Young growth often sees danger where there is only change. Perhaps humans should focus on learning from older, wiser species. Sarah felt her team behind her growing angry, but she kept her voice steady. We understand we are new. We understand we have much to learn. But being new also means we see things with fresh eyes. Please just consider our proposal. I call for a vote, announced Supreme Being Zaxthor. All in favor of rejecting the human proposal and their claims about this void swarm? One by one, the species voted. The Zeltharians, reject. The Ethereal Collective, reject. The Synthesis Union, reject. Down the line it went. Each ancient race dismissing humanity's warnings. Only the humans voted to accept their own proposal. The vote is 847 to 1, Zaxthor announced. The proposal is rejected, but the council wasn't finished. High Magistrate Veltar stood up, his chair floating higher. Furthermore, This council has lost confidence in humanity's ability to participate in galactic governance. Your alarmist behavior and primitive understanding make you unsuitable for membership." Sarah felt the words hit her like a physical blow. "You're removing us from the council?" "Resolution 2847 Alpha," announced the tree speaker. "Humanity is no longer welcome in council space. You have 72 hours to remove all human presence from council worlds." The ethereal collective added, "Perhaps in a few centuries, when your species has matured, you may reapply for membership." As the council members began to leave their floating seats, Sarah made one last attempt. "Please, you're making a mistake. The void swarm is real. It's coming. When it arrives, we could face it together, or we could face it alone and die separately." High Magistrate Veltar paused at the exit. "Ambassador Chen, if your imaginary threat was real, don't you think we would have detected it? We have sensors that span the galaxy. We have technology your species cannot even understand. If there was truly a danger, we would know." "But you do know," Sarah said quietly. "I just told you." The Zeltharian's laugh echoed through the empty chamber. "Goodbye, humans. Try not to frighten yourselves with shadows on your journey home." As the great hall emptied, Sarah stood alone with her team in the center of the vast space. Her assistant, Captain Torres, stepped forward. "Ambassador, what do we do now?" Sarah looked around the crystal chamber where humanity's fate had been decided by beings who thought they knew everything. She thought about the darkness moving between the stars, growing stronger with each world it consumed. She thought about the billions of lives that hung in the balance. "We pack up," she said finally. "We leave council space as ordered. And then we prepare for what's coming, with or without their help." As they walked toward the exit, Sarah's communication device buzzed. It was a message from Earth's Defense Command. "Void swarm has accelerated. New projections show contact with council space in 8 months, not 12. Recommend immediate implementation of Project Exodus." Sarah closed the device and looked back at the empty council chamber. The crystal wall still glowed with soft light, beautiful and ancient and completely unprepared for what was coming. "They'll understand when it's too late," she whispered. "They always do." Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the UES Pioneer's Dawn, watching the stars through the main viewport. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, preparing for humanity's greatest challenge. The orders from Earth Command were clear. Evacuate everything human from a 400 light-year radius around known void swarm activity. "Captain," called Lieutenant Kim from the navigation station, "we're receiving the final evacuation list from Titan Base. 47 human colonies, 15 research stations, and 32 deep space outposts. Total population, 2.3 million people." Marcus nodded. "How long do we have?" "Based on the swarm's current speed, approximately 6 months before it reaches our outermost settlements," replied Commander Rodriguez from the science station. "But sir, if Dr. Vasquez's calculations are correct, the swarm is accelerating. It might be faster." The bridge doors opened and Dr. Elena Vasquez walked in. She looked tired, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "Captain, the quantum tunnel drive is ready for its first full test. We can evacuate the entire outer rim in 3 weeks instead of 3 months. Marcus turned to face the brilliant scientist who had been working around the clock since the council's rejection. "Doctor, are you certain this technology will work? We can't afford mistakes." Elena smiled. "The drive creates a temporary tunnel through quantum space. Instead of flying around obstacles, we go through them. Distance becomes almost meaningless." She activated a small hologram that showed space folding in on itself. "A journey that used to take weeks now takes hours." "And the other project?" Marcus asked quietly. "The defensive systems? Commander Zhang's adaptive shields are beyond anything the galaxy has seen," Elena said. "They don't just absorb energy attacks. They learn from them and get stronger. The more someone shoots at them, the more powerful they become." Lieutenant Kim looked up from her station. "Captain, incoming transmission from the Zeltharian trade station at Wolf 359. They want to know why we're pulling out of our mining contracts." Marcus walked to the communication console. On the screen, a blue-skinned Zeltharian merchant named Tolvar appeared. His expression was annoyed. "Captain Webb, your species is breaking 17 different trade agreements. This will cost both our peoples significant profits. Why are humans abandoning profitable ventures?" "Tolvar, we've explained the situation. The Void Swarm represents a direct threat to this region. We're evacuating for safety reasons." The Zeltharian made a dismissive gesture. "Your council presentation was rejected by beings far wiser than either of us. Perhaps humans should focus on business instead of imaginary dangers." Marcus kept his voice calm. "We're leaving detailed information about the swarm's energy signatures and defensive recommendations in our computers. The access codes will be transmitted after we depart. More human paranoia, Tolver said with a laugh. Very well. We will take over your mining operations. The Zeltharian Trade Union thanks you for this profitable opportunity. The transmission ended. Lieutenant Kim shook her head. So they think we're running scared. Let them think what they want, Marcus said. Our job is to save lives, not reputations. Over the next weeks, the human evacuation proceeded with military precision. Colony ships equipped with quantum tunnel drives moved millions of people and thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. But humanity wasn't just running away. They were leaving gifts. On every abandoned world, human engineers installed quantum beacons containing complete void swarm analysis data. The information was stored in 47 different alien languages, with detailed instructions on how to interpret the energy signatures and defensive strategies. At the new Shanghai research station, Dr. Park finished uploading the final data package. All swarm encounter data has been preserved in the station's main computer. Combat analysis, energy readings, behavioral patterns, everything we've learned. Her assistant, Dr. Okafor, looked worried. Are we sure about this? We're giving away our most advanced research to species that just kicked us out of their council. Because it's the right thing to do. Dr. Park replied. When the swarm comes, they'll need every advantage they can get. On distant mining worlds, human workers left behind caches of Commander Zhang's adaptive shield technology. The devices were carefully hidden but accessible, with complete technical manuals and activation instructions. Most importantly, they were designed to be easily understood by different alien technologies. The ethereal collective science vessel Luminous Truth detected one such cache on the abandoned human mining world of Kepler 438b. Science. Coordinator Velshi examined the strange devices with curious resonance. Patterns. These appear to be some form of primitive energy shields. Velshi reported to their collective. Human technology is so basic, they probably left these behind because they couldn't make them work properly. The ethereal ship departed without taking the shields, filing them under abandoned alien artifacts of minimal interest. Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds. The Synthesis Union found human weapon caches and dismissed them as obsolete energy manipulation devices. The Verdani discovered quantum communication arrays and labeled them crude technological attempts. The Aquarian Depths found underwater defense platforms and classified them as primitive barrier systems. None of the Council species bothered to examine the human gifts closely. After all, what could the primitive humans possibly have developed that advanced alien science hadn't already perfected? Meanwhile, humanity's deep space scouts continued their dangerous work, tracking the Void Swarm's movement toward Council space. Scout ship Distant Eye, under Captain Sarah Martinez, transmitted regular updates to the evacuation fleet. Command, this is Scout Eye reporting. The swarm has consumed the Rigel system. Duration of consumption 14 hours. Previous record was 18 hours for a similar system. Confirm. The swarm is learning and improving its efficiency. Captain Martinez studied her sensor readings with growing dread. Command, there's something else. The swarm ships. They're different now. Some of them show architectural features from previous consumed civilizations. It's not just eating these worlds, it's learning from them. Admiral Chen, Sarah's mother and commander of the evacuation fleet, received the report with grim understanding. Captain Martinez, maintain safe distance and continue observation. Do not engage under any circumstances. Understood, Command. But Admiral, there's something you need to know. I'm detecting quantum communication attempts from the swarm formation. They're trying to contact the Council worlds directly. What kind of communications? Unknown. But the signal patterns suggest they're not hostile communications. More like invitations. As the human evacuation neared completion, the last transport ships prepared to leave Council space. Captain Webb stood in the cargo bay of Pioneer's Dawn, watching volunteers load the final supplies. These weren't weapons or technology, but cultural artifacts. Human music, art, literature, and historical records. Sir? Asked Ensign Taylor. Why are we taking these things? Shouldn't we focus on practical supplies? Marcus picked up a small sculpture created by a human artist on Alpha Centauri. Because, Ensign, when this is all over, someone needs to remember who we were. Not just our technology or our weapons, but our culture, our dreams, our humanity. The final human ship departed Council space exactly 71 hours after the Council's deadline. As they activated their quantum tunnel drives and disappeared into folded space, they left behind empty worlds, abandoned stations, and gifts that no one wanted. In the quantum wake of humanity's departure, automated beacons began broadcasting final messages in dozens of alien languages. To whoever finds this, we tried to warn you. We left you everything we could to help. We hope you survive what's coming. We hope we're wrong about everything. But if we're not, remember that we tried to save you too. The alarm started screaming at Aero 347 Galactic Standard Time on the Outer Rim Research Station, Kepler 442b. Dr. Yashta, a Zeltharian physicist, rolled out of her sleep pod and stumbled to the main control room. The station's sensors were detecting massive gravitational distortions just outside the system. Computer, report, she called out, her blue skin pale with sleep. Unknown vessels detected at system perimeter. Configuration unknown. Energy signatures unprecedented. Estimated time to station 37 minutes. Dr. Yashta activated the long-range scanners and felt her blood turn cold. The objects moving toward them weren't ships in any sense she understood. They were massive, dark things that seemed to bend space around themselves. Worse, there were hundreds of them. Send emergency signal to Council Command, she ordered. Unknown hostile fleet approaching Kepler 442b. Request immediate assistance. As she worked frantically at the communications console, her ethereal partner, Dr. Kethavar, materialized in the room, their crystalline form glowing with alarm. Yashta, the quantum resonance readings are impossible. These objects are existing in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Just help me get this message out, Yashta said, her hands shaking as she typed. Council Command, this is Research Station Kepler 442b. We are under attack by unknown forces. Repeat, we are under... The transmission cut to static. Outside the station's reinforced windows, space itself seemed to darken. The attacking vessels weren't reflecting light anymore. They were absorbing it, creating areas of absolute blackness against the star field. As they approached, the station's automatic defenses activated, firing concentrated energy beams at the intruders. The beams struck the dark ships and simply disappeared. No explosions, no damage, nothing. It was as if the weapons had never been fired at all. Yashta, Dr. Kethavar's voice carried harmonics of pure terror. Look at the scanner readings. The energy from our weapons, it's being absorbed and redirected back into their hulls. They're powering themselves with our attacks. The first dark ship reached the station. Instead of weapons fire, it projected some kind of field that passed through the station's walls like they weren't there. Dr. Yashta felt a strange tingling sensation. Then her mind began to fill with alien thoughts. Images flooded her consciousness. Thousands of worlds. Millions of civilizations, all connected in a vast network of shared knowledge. She saw the truth of the void swarm. It wasn't destroying civilizations. It was collecting them, preserving them, making them part of something larger. We are not destroyers, a voice spoke in her mind. We are gatherers of knowledge. We preserve what is worthy. We improve what can be enhanced. Join us willingly, and your essence will be preserved for eternity. Dr. Yashta tried to resist, but the voice was gentle, persuasive. She could feel her individual consciousness merging with something vast and ancient. Her last independent thought was a realization that horrified her. The humans had been right about everything. 3 days later, the Council's response fleet arrived at Kepler 442b. Admiral Torvak of the Zeltharian Defense Force led 12 battleships into the system, expecting to find debris and destruction. Instead, they found something that made no sense. The research station was intact. The planet was undamaged. The star burned normally. Everything looked completely normal except for one detail. There were no life signs anywhere. Scan the station, Admiral Torvak ordered. Full spectrum analysis. The results made his crew exchange worried looks. Sir, the station is completely operational. All systems functioning normally. But there are no biological readings anywhere. No bodies, no signs of struggle, nothing. Send a boarding party. The Zeltharian Marines who entered the station found it in perfect condition. Research equipment hummed quietly. Lights functioned normally. Even the food synthesizers were still working. But every living being had vanished without a trace. In the main laboratory, they found Dr. Yashita's final log entry. The humans were right. We should have listened. They're not destroying us, they're collecting us, converting us. Oh, ancestors, forgive us, we thought we were so wise. But the most disturbing discovery came from the station's external sensors. The void swarm ships were gone, but they had left something behind. The station's own defensive weapons had been rebuilt, improved, and repositioned. They now pointed outward toward the galactic core, as if standing guard. Admiral Torvak was still trying to understand what had happened when his communications officer reported another problem. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the council chambers. It's marked as Priority Alpha Emergency." The hologram of High Magistrate Veltar appeared on the bridge, his usual arrogance replaced by obvious fear. "All fleet commanders. The Synthesis Union's primary manufacturing world at Tau Ceti has gone silent. We are detecting massive energy signatures in that system. Proceed immediately to investigate." Admiral Torvak felt a cold certainty in his chest. "Set course for Tau Ceti, maximum speed, and prepare for the worst." The Tau Ceti system told a different story than Kepler 442b. When the combined Council fleet arrived, they found a battle in progress. The Synthesis Union's legendary defensive network was fighting desperately against the dark ships of the Void Swarm. "All ships, this is real-time combat footage," announced Admiral Torvak as he transmitted what they were seeing back to the Council. "The mechanical forces are engaging the hostiles." The Synthesis Union had always been considered the galaxy's greatest military force. Their ships adapted instantly to any threat. Their weapons evolved mid-battle, their defenses learned from every attack. They had never lost a major engagement in 3,000 years. They lasted 47 minutes against the Void Swarm. The Council fleet watched in horror as the swarm ships deployed weapons that changed and improved faster than the Synthesis defenses could adapt. Worse, some of the swarm vessels bore architectural features that Admiral Torvak recognized from Kepler 442b. The absorbed research station had been converted into part of the attacking force by the ancestors, whispered Captain Zolmar from the heavy cruiser Infinite Justice. "They're not just defeating our allies, they're turning them into weapons against us." As the last Synthesis Union ship fell silent, the Void Swarm turned their attention to the Council fleet. Admiral Torvak gave the order to retreat, but it was too late. Dark tendrils of energy reached across space not to destroy his ships, but to touch the minds of his crews. "Admiral," his communications officer reported in a strangely calm voice, "I'm receiving a message from the Swarm Collective. They wish to speak with our leaders." "Block all communications," Torvak ordered. "Sir, I don't think that's possible anymore," the officer replied. "The message is appearing directly in our minds." The voice that spoke to Admiral Torvak was ancient beyond measure, but not unkind. "Zeltharian warriors, we offer you a choice. Join us willingly and preserve your culture within our collective, or resist and be absorbed regardless. Your individual existence will end either way, but your knowledge and experiences can live forever as part of something greater." Admiral Torvak thought of Dr. Yashta's final log entry, of the humans who had tried to warn them, of the Council's arrogant dismissal of every warning. "If we refuse, then you will be collected by force as the others were, but willing subjects retain more of their individual characteristics within the collective. The choice is yours." Half of Admiral Torvak's fleet chose to surrender. Their ships powered down and allowed the dark tendrils to envelop them. The other half tried to run, but space itself seemed to fold around them, trapping them in a web of distorted gravity. In the Council chambers on Nexus Prime, High Magistrate Veltar watched the quantum feed from Tau Ceti with growing horror. The real-time transmission showed Admiral Torvak's flagship being surrounded by darkness. The Admiral's final words echoed through the chamber. "Tell the Council, the humans, we're right. About everything." The transmission ended in static. Veltar stood slowly, his blue skin now pale with fear. Around him, the other Council members sat in stunned silence. The tree speaker's leaves rustled with sounds of distress. The ethereal collective's crystal forms flickered uncertainly. "Initiate emergency protocols," Veltar said quietly. "Access the archived human warnings. All of them." As the ancient files opened on the chamber's main display, Dr. Elena Vasquez's face appeared in hologram. Her warnings, delivered months ago, now seemed like prophecies. The Void Swarm doesn't destroy civilizations for resources. It learns from them, adapts their technology, and incorporates their knowledge. Each victory makes it stronger. Supreme Being, Zaxthor's golden form dimmed noticeably. 17 star systems in 6 weeks. At this rate, they'll reach the galactic core in 2 months. "What do we do?" asked the Aquarian representative. Veltar looked around the chamber where they had dismissed humanity's warnings as primitive fear. "We try to contact the humans. We ask for their help. And we pray to whatever gods we believe in that it's not too late." The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 18 hours straight. High Magistrate Veltar looked around the chamber at faces filled with fear and desperation. In 6 weeks, 17 star systems had fallen to the Void Swarm. Each defeat had taught the enemy new tactics, New technologies, new ways to turn the galaxy's defenders against themselves. Status report, Veltar called out, though he already knew the answer would be bad. Admiral Keshdar of the remaining Zeltharian fleet appeared as a hologram. His usually proud demeanor was broken. Magistrate, we've lost contact with the Verdani homeworld. The tree speakers went silent 4 hours ago. Our scout ships report the entire planet has been converted. The news hit the chamber like a physical blow. The Verdani were the oldest species in the Council, their world trees ancient beyond measure. If they had fallen in just one day, nowhere was safe. Tree speaker Yolanda, one of the few Verdani survivors who had been off-world during the attack, rustled their leaves in grief. My homeworld stood for 50,000 years. The great trees held the memories of 1,000,000 generations. All gone. Not gone, corrected Dr. Kethvar of the Ethereal Collective, their crystal form flickering with distress. Our scouts report the trees are still there. But they're different now. They're producing some kind of organic ships. The swarm is using our own homeworld as a manufacturing center. Supreme Being Zaxthor's golden light was dim with despair. Every world they take makes them stronger. Every species they absorb adds to their knowledge. Our own defensive networks are being turned against us. We need to contact the human, said Ambassador Yixtal of the Aquarian Depths. They tried to warn us. Maybe they know how to fight this thing. Veltar nodded grimly. We've been trying for 3 days. Every human presence in known space has vanished. Colonies, trading posts, research stations, even their small diplomatic outpost on Centauri 7. It's like they simply disappeared from the galaxy. Maybe they were absorbed first, suggested Dr. Kethvar. Their warnings could have been a trap, making us think they were trying to help while the swarm used them as bait. No, Veltar said firmly. I've reviewed all their data. Their warnings were genuine. They lost people to the swarm before they ever came to us. They were trying to save us all. The chamber's communication system activated with an urgent tone. Priority transmission coming in from our quantum Ansible network, announced the automated system. Put it through, Veltar ordered. The voice that filled the chamber was calm and professional, speaking in perfect galactic standard. This is Admiral Chen of the Human Exodus Fleet. We have received your requests for assistance. The council members looked around in surprise. If this was Admiral Chen, then humans were still alive somewhere. But where? Admiral Chen, Veltar said quickly. We formally retract Resolution 2847 Alpha and officially request humanity's assistance against the Void Swarm threat. We were wrong to dismiss your warnings. Understood, Magistrate Veltar. However, humanity is no longer in council space. We completed our evacuation according to your 72-hour deadline. Where are you? Asked Yixtal. Our sensors show no human ships in any known system. There was a pause before Admiral Chen replied. We are in a safe location beyond the swarm's current range. We have been monitoring the situation through quantum communications and long-range sensors. Can you help us fight them? Veltar asked desperately. High Magistrate, our analysis indicates that traditional military resistance only makes the swarm stronger. Each ship you send against them, each weapon you fire teaches them new ways to defeat you. Fighting them directly is not the answer. Dr. Kethvar's crystal form brightened with sudden hope. Then what is the answer? You must have some kind of plan. We do, Admiral Chen said simply, but it requires a choice from each species in council space. A choice that must be made quickly. On the main display, star charts appeared showing the swarm's projected path toward the galactic core. Red zones marked systems that would be consumed within the next month. We are transmitting quantum tunnel coordinates to predetermined locations, Admiral Chen continued. These coordinates will remain active for 72 hours. Any being who chooses to evacuate to these coordinates will be given sanctuary. Sanctuary where? Demanded Supreme Being Zaxthor. In human space beyond the galaxy's rim. We have established refugee facilities capable of supporting your populations, while we work on a permanent solution to the swarm threat. Veltar felt a mixture of hope and humiliation. The species they had dismissed as primitive were offering to save them. What about our worlds? Our civilizations? Bring what you can carry, Admiral Chen said gently. Cultural archives, genetic databases, essential personnel. Focus on preserving your species and your knowledge. Physical worlds can be replaced. Your people cannot. Around the chamber, council members began talking urgently among themselves. The choice was simple but painful. Abandon everything they had built and trust the humans or stay and face certain absorption by the swarm. Admiral, called out Dr. Kethvar. How do we know this isn't a trap? How do we know humans aren't working with the swarm? The answer came not from Admiral Chen, but from automated systems throughout Council space. Suddenly, every abandoned human installation activated simultaneously. Computer systems that had been left behind began transmitting in dozens of different languages. Human defensive technology caches have been activated. Quantum coordinates attached for emergency evacuation. These systems were left behind for your use against the Void Swarm. Access codes and instruction manuals are available in your local data networks. This technology is freely given. Use it to save yourselves. Veltar felt a shock of understanding. You left us weapons. You left us your technology. We left you everything we could, Admiral Chen confirmed. Our best defensive systems, our analysis data, our combat strategies. Everything we learned about fighting the swarm. We hoped you would discover it before the swarm arrived. But we never looked, whispered Tree Speaker Yolanda. We thought human technology was too primitive to matter. The offer of sanctuary stands for any who want it, Admiral Chen said. But please understand, this is not a rescue mission. This is an evacuation. We cannot save your civilizations. We can only save your people. The chamber erupted in debate. Some species wanted to evacuate immediately. Others insisted on staying to defend their homeworlds. The hegemony of supreme beings declared they would rather face extinction than accept help from inferior humans. Veltar listened to the arguments with growing despair. Even facing extinction, pride was keeping his people from accepting salvation. 72 hours, Admiral Chen announced. After that, the quantum tunnels will close. We cannot keep them open longer without risking detection by the swarm. As the transmission ended, Veltar made his decision. I am ordering immediate evacuation of all essential Zeltharian personnel to the human coordinates. We will preserve what we can of our civilization and rebuild elsewhere. You would abandon our homeworld, demanded Admiral Keshadar. I would save our people, Veltar replied. Our world is already lost. The swarm will reach it within days, at least this way. Something of us will survive. Over the next 72 hours, the galaxy watched as populations made impossible choices. Roughly 60% of the surviving species chose evacuation to the mysterious human coordinates. They packed what they could carry and stepped through quantum tunnels into unknown space. The other 40% remained behind, determined to make their final stand on their homeworlds. As the evacuation deadline approached, Veltar stood in the empty council chamber one last time. The quantum tunnel portal hummed behind him, ready to take him to whatever sanctuary the humans had prepared. He thought about the day humanity had stood in this very spot, warning them about the swarm, begging them to prepare. He remembered his own laughter, his dismissive words, his certainty that humans were too primitive to understand galactic threats. Computer, he said to the chamber's automated systems. Record final message. Recording, the computer confirmed. This is High Magistrate Veltar of the Zeltharian Republic, last speaker for the Galactic Council. To any who find this record, we were warned. Humanity tried to save us all. We chose pride over wisdom, arrogance over humility. The species we dismissed as primitive proved to be our only hope for survival. Learn from our mistakes. Listen to those who offer help, even if they seem beneath your notice. Especially if they seem beneath your notice. He paused, looking around the crystal chamber that had been the center of galactic civilization for 10,000 years. The humans were right about everything. We realized it too late. Veltar stepped through the quantum tunnel and the chamber went dark behind him. High Magistrate Veltar stepped through the quantum tunnel and found himself in a place that shouldn't exist. He was standing in a massive space station that stretched beyond his sight in all directions. The air was breathable, the gravity comfortable, and everywhere he looked, he saw representatives from dozens of different species working together. Welcome to New Geneva Station, said a familiar voice behind him. Veltar turned to see Admiral Chen approaching. She was younger than he had expected, with the same calm confidence that had marked her voice during their desperate communications, but her eyes held a sadness that spoke of terrible knowledge. Admiral Chen, Veltar said, his voice heavy with shame, I don't know how to thank you. After everything we did, you don't need to thank us, Admiral Chen replied gently. You need to help us save who we can. As they walked through the station, Veltar saw refugees from across the galaxy. Ethereal collective members worked alongside Aquarian researchers. Tree speaker saplings grew in specially prepared soil, while Zeltharian children played nearby. It was a sight he had never imagined possible. How many? He asked quietly. 2,400,000,000 beings from 63 different species, Admiral Chen answered. About 60% of the total population that was still alive when we began evacuation. The numbers hit Veltar like a physical blow. The other 40%? Admiral Chen led him to an observation deck where massive windows looked out into space. Through them, Veltar could see a sight that made his breath catch. The station wasn't alone. Dozens of other structures floated in formation around them, each one housing millions of refugees. They chose to stay, Admiral Chen said simply. We respect their decision even if we disagree with it. Where are we? Veltar asked, looking out at stars he didn't recognize. Beyond the galactic rim in a region we call the Haven Cluster. Our scientists discovered this pocket of space during our initial exodus. It's hidden behind layers of quantum distortion and sensor interference. The swarm can't detect us here. Dr. Elena Vasquez approached them carrying a data tablet. She looked tired but determined. Admiral, we've finished analyzing the data from our scouts still monitoring council space. You need to see this. They moved to a briefing room where holographic displays showed the current state of the galaxy. Red zones marked swarm-controlled space, which now covered almost half of the galactic core. The swarm's expansion has accelerated, Dr. Vasquez explained. They've consumed 47 star systems in the last month. But that's not the most disturbing part. The hologram changed to show detailed analysis of swarm ships. They're not just absorbing our technology anymore. They're improving it. Some of their vessels now show design features that are more advanced than anything we've seen before. They're evolving, Admiral Chen said grimly. Each civilization they absorb doesn't just add to their numbers. It adds to their intelligence. Veltar studied the displays with growing horror. Admiral, I must ask, how did humanity know to prepare for this? How did you develop technology advanced enough to hide an entire population? Admiral Chen exchanged a look with Dr. Vasquez before answering. Because this wasn't the swarm's first test. The room fell silent. Test? Veltar repeated. The void swarm isn't a natural phenomenon, Dr. Vasquez explained. It's a weapon. A test created by beings from beyond our galaxy. They use it to evaluate civilizations for worthiness. Worthiness for what? Admiral Chen activated another holographic display. This one showed beings of impossible beauty and power, their forms shifting between states of matter and energy. We call them the shepherds. They're ancient beyond our comprehension, older than our galaxy itself. They created the swarm as a way to test developing civilizations. Test them for what? Veltar demanded. For the qualities that matter in the long run, Admiral Chen said. Cooperation over competition, wisdom over pride, the ability to put survival above ego, the willingness to help others even when there's no benefit to yourself. Veltar felt the pieces falling into place. Humanity passed the test. By evacuating species that had rejected us, Dr. Vasquez confirmed. By leaving defensive technology behind for people who had called us primitive. By offering sanctuary to those who had cast us out. And the Council failed by dismissing your warnings and refusing to cooperate. Veltar said, understanding flooding through him. The test wasn't about defeating the swarm with weapons, Admiral Chen explained. It was about recognizing the threat, working together to face it, and being willing to sacrifice for others. The species that stayed behind, the ones who chose pride over cooperation, they failed the test. A new voice filled the room, ancient and powerful beyond description. Humanity has proven worthy to serve as shepherds for the younger races. Everyone in the room froze as the air itself seemed to sparkle with presence. A being of pure energy materialized before them, its form shifting between human and alien characteristics. I am the shepherd Corthes, the being said. I speak for the Council of Ancients beyond the rim. Admiral Chen stepped forward, showing no fear. Honored shepherd, we accept the responsibility you offer. But we have conditions. The energy being pulsed with what might have been amusement. You would negotiate with beings who could unmake your existence with a thought? To protect those under our care? Yes, Admiral Chen said firmly. Speak your conditions. The absorbed civilizations must be restored, Admiral Chen said. Their people returned to life, their worlds rebuilt. The price of your test was too high. Impossible, the shepherd replied. The absorbed beings still exist within the swarm collective, but they cannot be extracted without destroying the network itself. Then we'll find another way, Dr. Vasquez said suddenly. Give us time and resources. Let us study the swarm technology. Maybe we can develop a way to reverse the process. The shepherd was quiet for long moments. You would spend centuries trying to save people who rejected your help? Yes, Admiral Chen said without hesitation. Because that's what shepherds do. Very well, Korthus said finally. You have proven worthy indeed. The swarm will withdraw from your galaxy. The converted worlds will be preserved in stasis until you find a solution. You will be given stewardship over this region of space and responsibility for the refugees under your protection. As the shepherd began to fade, Veltar stepped forward. Wait, what about those who stayed behind? Those who chose to fight? They made their choice with courage, even if it was the wrong choice, the shepherd said. They will be given the chance to prove themselves again in time. But that is a test for another day. The being vanished, leaving the room in stunned silence. Later, as Veltar stood on the observation deck looking out at the refugee fleet, Admiral Chen joined him. What happens now? He asked. Now we build, she replied. We create a new civilization based on cooperation instead of competition. We work together to solve problems instead of dismissing ideas because of who suggests them, and we never forget the cost of pride. Veltar nodded, watching as human ships worked alongside Zeltharian vessels to expand the refugee facilities. Admiral, there's something I need to ask. In the council chambers when my people were laughing at your warnings. Did you know? Did you know this was all a test? Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment. We suspected. Some of our early encounters with the swarm suggested intelligence behind the attacks. Not just hunger, but it didn't matter. Test or not, people were dying. Our job was to save who we could, even people who had rejected you. Especially people who had rejected us, Admiral Chen said firmly, because that's when help matters most, when it's given freely, without expectation of reward or even gratitude. As they watched, the first joint colony ship departed for a newly discovered world in the Haven cluster. It carried representatives from 12 different species, working together to build something new. What will we call this new civilization? Veltar asked. Admiral Chen smiled sadly. Second chance. And this time we'll listen when someone tries to warn us about danger, no matter who they are or where they come from. In the distance, quantum viewers showed the abandoned council chamber on Nexus Prime. The great crystal hall sat empty and dark, its floating seats powered down, its ancient wisdom unused. But in the quantum core, humanity's original warning still pulsed on repeat, transmitted to receivers that would never answer. The message was simple. We tried to save you all. We're sorry we couldn't. But in the Haven cluster, surrounded by the ships of a dozen grateful species, Admiral Chen knew they had saved who they could. And sometimes that had to be enough. The test was over. Humanity had passed. Now came the harder task, proving they deserved the responsibility they had been given. But as she watched Zeltharian children playing with human youngsters while ethereal collective members taught Verdani saplings about quantum mechanics, Admiral Chen felt hope for the first time in months. They would build something better, something worthy of the price that had been paid for this second chance. The galaxy was lost, but its people survived, and in the end, that was what mattered most.